My name is Emily. I'm a university student and I have lived in Canada for my whole life. Growing up, I didn't have much travel experience beyond a few beach vacations with my family. I never understood how big the world really is. I still don't. But last summer, I had the opportunity to travel somewhere really, really far away, about 13,490 kilometers away. It was the middle of the night when we arrived in Uganda. The air was wet and warm rain beat down like the drum on the roof of our van as we traveled through the streets of Kampala, bustling with music and street vendors. The occasional goat or chicken could be seen scurrying around as nightlife was just beginning. I already knew things were going to be very different from home. And it was my home for 6 weeks. I had traveled along with 15 other Canadian students with an organization called Power to Change. Throughout our time in Uganda, we would be volunteering with local ministries on university campuses, as well as going to orphanages and schools to work with younger students in the education programs. Although we were eager to get going on the mission as soon as we arrived, there were some things we needed to learn first. One of the biggest challenges of international work is the cultural differences. We all have a way of life that we have grown accustomed to, and when you travel internationally, you learn that your way is not the only way. And an even harder lesson to learn is that your way is not always the best way. In Western society, it's easy to have the mindset that cultures in developing countries need to be fixed. But who says that our culture is better than anyone else's? They might need help and they might have problems, but so do we, and I've learned that working internationally means being willing to serve within a culture without trying to change that culture. It might mean trying the local food, which in this case meant eating bananas in all their forms. I was surprised to learn there's more than just one. Or it might mean keeping a positive attitude when strangers are shouting Mzungu at you from across the street. Believe me, it's not as bad as it sounds. The first thing we learned about when we were on the ground in Uganda was the concept of culture shock. We were told about 3 stages of culture shock and how to deal with them. The first stage is the honeymoon phase. I think I stayed in this phase longer than most. It's the, look, another adorable goat phase, and the, I want to eat every mango phase. It's the postcard-worthy sunsets, and the excitement of throwing yourself into another world. It's the friendly locals that you meet, and the thrill of constantly learning something new. When I was in the honeymoon phase, even torrential rainstorms couldn't keep me from working. We held soccer ministries and slid around in the mud, with smiles never leaving our faces. We built friendships with Ugandan students and found their accents charming. A big difference that excited me was the way Ugandans view time. Here in Canada, it seems that every minute is a valuable asset that cannot be lost, and we often focus on time and schedules so much that we miss the moments that matter. In Ugandan culture, the moments hold much more worth than the minutes do. If I meet someone who is on their way to class, they will stop and talk to me. The conversation becomes their priority, because it is happening in the moment. It was a very comfortable and socially rewarding aspect of the culture. The frustration stage is where you really start to notice the cultural differences. Even though everyone we met spoke English, language was still a bit of an obstacle. If I was knocking on a Ugandan store to invite them to an event or just to meet and have a conversation with them, one common phrase would trip me up a little bit almost every time. It's okay. In Canada, saying it's okay to someone is usually a form of rejection. Would you like a sandwich? It's okay. I'm not hungry. It's as if you're actually saying, I'm okay without having that thing that you're offering. In Uganda, the phrase does a 180 and it becomes affirmative. So if I'm standing at someone's door and ask if I can come in, they will usually say, it's okay. In this case, it means that it is literally okay if you come in. Please do. Other things, such as personal space, dining habits, and speaking volume, also took some time to adapt to. Apparently Canadians are loud, and often we would feel frustrated that we just couldn't understand the Ugandans because they speak so softly. The frustration stage brings up a lot of questions. Why aren't they finding a faster way to build that? Do you actually expect me to eat that? Why are there 5 lanes of traffic on a 2-lane road? These are all things that I asked during my time in Uganda as I began to miss life at home, but don't worry, it doesn't last long. You begin to adjust to the differences, and then you reach the next stage. The third stage is the acceptance stage. It's the stage where you remember that things in this country are not weird, just different. As the Robert Louis Stevenson quote says, "There are no foreign lands. It is only the traveler who is foreign." During this stage, you can compare the good and bad of both cultures and live a more blended life. You keep some things from your own culture, but you also appreciate many things from the new culture, and begin to adopt them into your own way of life. You recognize the fundamental humanity that links you with the locals that you are working with, and you realize that you are not so different after all. I remember one afternoon that was especially important to me. My Canadian friend Amanda and I were volunteering with the campus ministry when we met a Ugandan university student named Susan. She was very interested in what we were doing, and said she had been struggling with some aspects of her faith and would love to talk to us. We went to her dorm room, and we also met her 3 roommates. Before long, we were all sitting on the bunk beds, taking selfies, chatting, laughing, and passing photos around. The girls laughed as I showed them a picture of my cat. "Why would you want to have a pet cat?" they asked. Susan marveled at my dad's hair in one photo and said he looked like a rock star. She showed me a picture of her boyfriend, and I showed her a photo of mine, and we continued to talk and giggle and tease each other about the funniest parts of both of our cultures. I showed them snow, they showed me hippos. It was like a sleepover with friends that we had known for ages, and no one could have guessed that we were from completely different parts of the planet. They are just girls, like us, and it was a day I'll never forget. The experience of working overseas will be different for everyone, and there is always going to be challenges and learning curves to navigate the different cultures. I'm looking forward to traveling again and volunteering overseas with some experience behind me, but knowing very well that I'll never be fully prepared, because there are some things you just have to learn in a hands-on way by immersing yourself in a world so much different than your own.